You recognize this guy, right? The famous hair, Albert Einstein. Now, many people think that he is a genius. But do you know that Albert Einstein himself actually said that I'm actually not so smart, right? This quote, I have no special talents, but I am passionately curious. Okay? And I think safe to say that although we cannot be as intelligent as Albert Einstein, we can certainly try and foster a sense of curiosity, isn't it? Because in an essence, in order to cope with change, we need to have this curious mindset. All right? So that's the first thing I need you all to understand first. This sense of curiosity. And how do we develop this sense of curiosity? Obviously, many people will say, oh, think outside the box. And I think that's easier said than done. Am I right to say that, all right? Sometimes I find that people get really frustrated whenever you turn, oh, you just think outside the box. Not that easy for many people, right? So I found a couple of ways that actually can help you think outside the box. So the first way is really to what? To try and do something different every day. It could be as small as the way you walk to, the route you walk to a particular area, or the way you go to, maybe those of you who are working, go to work to the office, or maybe the way you do something on a normal day, you do it something different, do it slightly different, okay? So the more you do something slightly different, the more you foster this mentality, hey, how about doing this in this way? How about doing that in this way? So you are actually going towards this notion of thinking outside the box. That's one way. The other way I found really successful, okay, is really this notion of trying to remember the time. Can you all remember the time when you are doing something, you're so engrossed in doing something, you lose track of time. You forget, oh, alamak, it's almost time to go home. Alamak, I'm supposed to meet Jane. I'm supposed to go and have dinner with my family. I forgot all about this, right? Many a time, yes, some of you will say that, oh, because I'm so busy. But what about those times when you are doing something that you're so curious, you're so interested in? You try and think of creative ways to try and see how you can do things better. Try and remind yourself of those times that you had. Okay? So try it out. All right? So that is the basic mindset I need you all to have in order to cope with the changes that you are faced right now. Okay, so let's talk a bit about the framework, the system that I'm going to share with you.
Thanks for clicking on this short video. This is an extraction from a longer video of a workshop. The link to this longer video is in the description below. There, we discuss other facets of the same issue discussed here. Do take a look too.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a broad overview. Firstly, this system that I have is really comprising two components. One, dealing with the present. And then once you dealt with the present, how you move forward. Okay? So focus here is, the approach here is very simple. It's really about putting things into separate buckets. Remember when I said, whenever we are faced with impactful change that affects us a lot, the first thing that we feel is we get distressed, we get emotional and all that. And once you get emotional, it's very difficult for us to think clearly on how to move ahead. All right, now, the basic fundamental of this framework is really to make you put things in separate buckets so that you can very clearly define and see what those things are in the bucket and to be able to action on those things, right? So think of it this way, okay? So let's talk about the first portion first, dealing with the present. The essence here is to acknowledge a lot of things, right? First of all, acknowledge the feelings that you will get when you're undergoing change that is so impactful. Many of you in the chat box mentioned depression, mental wellness, sadness, loss of fulfillment, and all that. Yeah? So we need to acknowledge that. I'm not asking you to put it aside. We need to acknowledge it. But in acknowledging it, we need to find a way to control it, to make ourselves calm. So that is the essence of this particular first part of the framework when we are dealing with the present. Acknowledge the feelings, but making sure that we don't let those feelings overrun what we need to do. Is that okay? Right? So that is the principle of this first part. And how do we do this? We basically put it into 3 buckets. Remember the bucket system I told you about? All right? It's really 3 buckets here. First of all, trying to understand, what does that change mean to me? How is it going to impact me? Right? Then you start looking at, how am I feeling because of those changes? How am I feeling? Right? And the third one, which is actually one of the most important things, you need to address this third one before you actually go on to the next phrase, right? Once you understand you have those emotions, right? You need to decipher, why do you have those emotions? What is the real reason? Now, emotions can be negative. While many of us focus on the negative part, we also need to look at the positive part of the change. Is that all right? Okay, so the first part of this framework in dealing with the present is really putting things into 3 buckets. These 3, by putting into these 3, would help us pull out the emotional luggage that we would have, and try to identify what can we do about all those things that we are feeling. So, next phase, moving on. The underlying philosophy of this next portion is really about enabling you to break down barriers, and move forward. And the 3 buckets again, what are they? Okay, based on what the results you have seen, you have gathered for yourself in the phase 1, you start looking at what are the possibilities for you. From those possibilities, you start looking at what sort of action can I take, or what sort of action should I take, right? Now, that's not the end, right? You have action plan, you have possibilities, but you also need to admit to yourself sometimes you need help. Okay, so the last portion is to identify what help you need. So that is the change management process. And believe you me, all right, I've tried this out with so many of my clients and with so many people in my workshops, not only with WSG, but also in my corporate clients itself, where I helped many people in employment cope with the changes that's happening to them at work, right? So they looked at what's happening with them, but they also try and work out a framework to anticipate what's going to happen down the line as well. And this CMP has been proven to work. So I hope that you will also get the same benefit out of today's session.
Hi, thanks for watching this video. If you like what you've seen and can't wait for the next one, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel in the link below. See you soon.